Immediately after finishing Star Wars Outlaws, I went to Ubisoft's YouTube channel and tried to find out if there was a trailer or video that accurately depicted how it feels to play the game. I mostly found stylish trailers showing non stop action, including gunfights, fistfights, and space battles. But there was only one video that had the piece of footage I was looking for, and it was a gameplay walkthrough from June 2023. In this video, we can see our hero Kay West sneaking through an enemy base and eventually she gets caught. Then a gunfight breaks out and the action begins. But this rarely happens in the actual game. Most of the time, what happens when you get caught is that a random enemy will try to raise the alarm and you need to try to stop them. Then another random enemy tries to do the same and so on. And more often than not, the alarm does get triggered and you get an instant fail screen. This sums up the core experience of playing through the story of Star Wars Outlaws, a pretty decent game that is let down by its forced stealth mechanics that take away the fun most of the time. If you're not going to watch the entire video, here's a summary. Star Wars Outlaws is a stealth-heavy third-person action game that really doesn't want you to use the action part for most of the time. When it does allow you to break free and explore the world at your own pace though, it does feel like an enjoyable game. The story is told quite well and actually makes you feel connected to the characters. At a runtime of between 15 to 20 hours for the main story and a whole lot more for the side quests, this game is a decent package for anyone who is a Star Wars fan or plays a lot of Ubisoft games. Now on to the full review. There will be a few minor spoilers ahead.
I know, buddy. Just give me a minute.
Let's begin with the story, which I feel is the strongest part of the game. It's not easy to write a story based on a multi-billion-dollar film franchise that is nearly 50 years old without upsetting a few of the most hardcore fans. Luckily, I'm not one of those fans, so I can't really speak about the impact of this game's story on the larger Star Wars universe. The story is set between the last two films of the original trilogy, meaning all those beloved characters are alive in this game's universe. However, the game essentially ignores all of them and instead tells the tale of an entirely new character called Kay West. Kay is a thief as demonstrated during the game's opening missions, where she steals to pay off a vendor and later steals an identity card to get behind a closed door. After her actions get her into trouble, she has an immediate need to flee from her home planet with a bounty on her head. She runs away to try her luck elsewhere in the galaxy. Eventually, she gets caught up in an ambitious heist plan that promises not only to remove the bounty on her head, but also set her up with enough money to last a lifetime. From that point onward, the game is less Star Wars and more Ocean's 11, as all your objectives revolve around recruiting crewmates for your big heist. However, the layer of Star Wars wrapped around this plot is what makes the game interesting, as the well-established elements of the franchise are all around you. Whether it's the simple sound effects of shooting your blaster, the iconic screen vibes, or just fighting stormtroopers and all sorts of alien life forms, walking around in this world does feel awesome. Amongst all the crew members, a couple stand out. First is Nix, Kay's pet and constant companion who is quite helpful in navigating environmental puzzles and fetching weapons and other items from nearby. The other is ND5, a droid who saves Kay's life and then becomes a babysitter and eventually her friend. The other characters are mildly interesting as well and play their own parts. The most recognizable character for the movie fans is perhaps Jabba the Hutt, who is the head of one of the four main factions in the game. Jabba doesn't really go anywhere, but you can feel his presence wherever you are in a number of missions. There's also a surprise character appearance towards the end, but this ended up being not much of a surprise because the Jedi games did it better. That's already a bit of a spoiler, so I won't say any more about it. On the whole, I felt that it was the story which was the saving grace of this game because the gameplay made me want to uninstall the game many times during my 15-hour run. Okay, here's what I wish I had clearly known before starting the game. Star Wars Outlaws is a heist game. It is still a third person action game, but it is first and foremost a heist game. That means you can expect stealth to be a major part of the gameplay. There's two major types of stealth missions in the game. The first is the annoying type where you cannot use your weapons at all and must sneak through the entire level without being seen by anyone. If you alert someone, you immediately fail the level and need to restart. The second mission type is the one that is found more often in the game, and that is where you are allowed to alert the enemies, but you are not allowed to have any alarm triggered. This means that if you blow your cover, you need to shoot down your enemies fast enough before one of them raises the alarm. And unlike other Ubisoft games where usually only one enemy tries to raise the alarm, here every enemy can potentially do that. This means you have to keep an eye out for the alarm warning symbol and prioritize taking down those enemies fast enough while also avoiding gunfire from enemies standing closer to you. It's a chaotic mess that penalizes you for breaking stealth, and more often than not, you fail the level either by getting an alarm triggered or by simply losing the fight because you are focusing on the wrong enemy. It's a surprisingly bad design that artificially increases the game's difficulty and removes the choice from players for how they want to play the game. And it's also misleading to a certain extent because, like I said at the start of the video, the trailers almost always show non-stop action and rarely emphasize on the game's stealth mechanics. Because obviously that's a boring thing to show in a trailer. Moving on, there are other aspects to the level design which also made me question if I was just being put through unnecessary padding to fill the time. The first half of the game is dedicated to repairing a ship that will eventually allow you to visit other planets. So you're made to sit through multiple slow, stealth-filled missions for multiple hours before 3 of the game's 4 planets open up to you. That was a bit difficult to sit through, and the reason for it became clear. Once you visited the other planets and assembled your heist crew, there was very little story left afterward. Speaking of the planets, while all of them are really well designed, the main missions almost always take place inside indoor levels, which is a bit of a shame. You still get to explore the planets completely in the side quests and also through the mini quests which award you abilities and upgrade parts, but not using the outdoor environments for most of the story felt a bit odd. When you do get to go outside, however, the gameplay offers a lot of platforming sections similar to what we've seen in games like Uncharted or Tomb Raider. Kay doesn't exactly have any special abilities or tricks apart from a grapple hook, so traversal isn't exactly exciting. You get one vehicle to explore the game on land and one spaceship for spaceflight. Both vehicles are upgradable to make them better, and sometimes the story will ask for a certain upgrade to make further progress, like the speeder getting an upgrade to move on water. Traveling between planets is easy. Similar to Starfield's fast travel system, you can simply jump between planets using fast travel points. But since Star Wars has its iconic light speed travel system, you get to zip between different planetary systems in light speed, and then you can fly to the actual planet and initiate a cool landing sequence. It is still masked with a loading screen, of course, but at least you get to see a spaceship in action, unlike Starfield. Moving on, the faction system is a major part of the gameplay and is integrated well into the story. There are 4 major factions in the game, and maintaining good relations with all or most of them will make your life in the game easier. However, at some points, taking one action will please one faction while getting another one angry, so you have to weigh between repping up one faction versus repping down another. That's it about the core gameplay. Usually, I end this section for Ubisoft games by talking about microtransactions, and I'm happy to report that this game has none for now. The game still has a store page, which is a bit suspicious, but at least at launch, visiting the store page simply prompts you to buy the Ultimate Edition of the game and the Season Pass. Since I played the Ubisoft Plus version of the game, I had access to both, so there was nothing else for me to do in the store. I only hope it stays this way and that the store being empty was not a ploy to just avoid bad reviews in the launch window. For now, though, it is a step in the right direction. Ubisoft games in general have been consistently upgrading their visual fidelity over the years, but titles from Massive Entertainment in particular have been visually stunning in the past decade. The two Division games and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora are good examples of this. Star Wars Outlaws is no exception. Featuring four distinct art styles across its different planets, the game is a treat to explore on your speeder. The seamless transition between spaceflight and landing on a planet is also well done, masking the loading screen with a believable visual of clouds. Spaceflight in itself is another beautiful sight to behold. Playing on my Series X, I didn't notice any visual glitches, and playing on the performance mode gave me a smooth 60 FPS throughout the game. However, being an open world game, this title isn't free from launch day bugs, and I did notice a few crashes along the way. One in particular took place during a cutscene, and it happened despite multiple restarts, so I was forced to skip the cutscene and watch it separately on YouTube. In another case, I managed to skip past a section of a level where the alarm was raised, but I still made it to the next checkpoint. So there seems to have been some sort of memory leak, and the entire game just froze with some sounds still audible in the background. These issues are very likely to be patched out soon, but if you are playing the game during its launch window, you can expect a few of these bugs to pop up occasionally. In my early impressions video, I mentioned how the main menu theme is so good that I didn't want to start the game. Well, I didn't exactly find any other such memorable tracks in the rest of the game. That's not to say that the score for this game is bad. It fits in a bit too well in the background, and I never felt any moment where I was like, wow, this music really suits this scene. But on the other hand, there was also never any moment where I felt as if the music was disruptive. So that's a good thing. The music swelling up as things get more dramatic made it feel in line with the movies. The sound design is quite good. Like I mentioned earlier, all the standard sound effects from the Star Wars universe are here, and they make the game feel more immersive. Voice acting is also really well done. Jabba and his crew speak their own language, Huttese, and that makes the voice acting a bit more interesting to follow.
Yeah? I'm Kay Vess. I'm putting together a crew.
Magula Titaki, kid.
I'm working with Jalen Brax.
Hilta, po puno dutoki.
Kay Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel.
I'm in two minds here. On one hand, I really did enjoy the time I spent with the campaign, but I didn't feel incentivized to explore more of the game's side quests and explore all the planets in complete detail. However, I am glad that players are given the choice to play the game however they like, except of course for the stealth sections. I would definitely not appreciate if there was some sort of artificial barrier requiring players to complete all side quests on every planet to advance the main story. If you're someone who appreciates exploring open world games to the full extent, then Outlaws has a decent amount of content for you to go through. If you're like me and just want to focus on the main story, well, that's where you need to decide if you're willing to put up with the forced stealth mechanics in order to watch the story unfold. Once you get past that stealth barrier, there is definitely a fun and enjoyable game here for everyone, whether or not you're a Star Wars fan. Thanks for watching.
I'm in.